Good afternoon. The shir is Le'ela Nishmas Elimelech ben Levi Yitzchak, Osher Shmuel Chaim ben Ephraim V'Tziona Esther Basara, Osher ben Yosef, Tzvi ben Shragai, Rivka bas Yitzchak Isaac, Mira bas Yaakov, Tzvi Dov ben Chaim Pesach, Yitzchak ben Sarah, Devorah bas Yitzchak, Leah bas Simcha, Avraham ben Mordechai David, Reuven ben Shmuel, Chana Golda bas Yisrael, Chana Ita bas Moshe David, Yeshua ben Shmuel, Chana Golda bas Yisrael, Chaim ben Fega, Yitzchak ben Tzvi, Mataleah bas Eliyahu, Mordechai Netzach ben Rivka, Shoshana bat Clara, Batya Esther bat Benyamin, Zalman Lei ben Moshe, Amichai ben Yaakov, Leila Nishmatam, Gittel bas Shmuel, Esther bas Rachel bas Chaya, Leila Nishmatam,
Henny Rasha bat Israel ben Libby.
For Shalema. For Shalema. This Shabbos is Shabbos Shira, Nechama. This Shabbos we take a bird to lunch. We take not a bird for lunch, we take a bird to lunch.
I want to take Big Bird.
That's a girl in England.
What, a bird?
Still alive?
There's a minhag to feed the birds this Shabbat. So take a bird to lunch, chanoch, or have him for lunch. Why is there a minhag? Because how do the Jews know to sing to God? How do they know that God loves to be serenaded? They learn from the birds. The birds are always singing to God. La 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 la. So the birds are always singing to God. So we learned that that's the way to go. So we're makir tov to the birds. Right? So therefore we take a bird for lunch to Shabbat Shira. Now the birds are a bird brain, Chanoch. They care why we're feeding them. Do they know the difference? What do you mean we're makir tov to the birds? They couldn't care less. They don't know anything. So Evelyn, it's not for the birds. In order to perfect my neshama, I need to be makir tov. It's not for the birds. My shleimut hanefesh demands that I express gratitude. It's not for the birds. It's for my tikkun hanefesh. So this Shabbat there's a minhag to feed the birds, because they taught us to sing to God. That's the highest form of worship, is to sing to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and we learned it from the birds. Aren't they always singing to God?
Yes.
Yes, Reuven?
Yeah, I was just going to ask, does it extend even right to like your jacket or what? Something that did good for you in life, you have to be makir. It's an inanimate object. Aren't we supposed to be sort of nice to it in a certain
So Reuven says the same idea. There's a lav in the Torah of Bal Tashchit. Good question, Reuven. There's a law in the Torah not to destroy fruit trees.
Oh, really?
Yes, there's a law into why? Because we benefit from the fruit tree. But the Sefer Chinuch says that it doesn't just stop there. Anything that you derive benefit from, inanimate object, whatever, you should not destroy. Because Reuven is right, Hakarat HaTov. It's not for the thing. The tree couldn't care less whether we chop it down or not. Because I enjoy the tree. It gives me fruit and shade. Therefore, I'm not allowed to destroy it. Expressing gratitude is not for the tree. Whatever I benefit from, to perfect my neshama, I need to express gratitude. And the whole Jewish religion is based, says Rabbeinu Bechai in the Sefer Chinuch, in expressing gratitude. Expressing gratitude to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. God doesn't need my gratitude, but I need it for eternity. Not God.
But don't you see the trees expressing gratitude?
What?
When it's going to rain, they put...
Right, the trees always, right? Remind us of the one above. Nachon?
And they pray.
Right. Now this week is the parsha of splitting of the Red Sea. Reminds me of a story, buddy. All my stories are true, but some did not happen yet. There's this guy sitting on a park bench and he's reading Parshas B'Shalach, this week's Parsha. And he's going, ooh and ah, wow. Splitting of the Red Sea, he's so excited. So a Meretz professor, a guy from Meretz, a professor, an atheist, says, young man, what are you so excited about? He says, well, I'm reading the story of God drowned the entire Egyptian army in the Red Sea. What miracles. Oh, God is so great. Calm down, my lad. We scientists know that those days the Red Sea was only 4 feet deep.
Wow.
So don't get excited.
Wow.
Okay, he calms down. A few verses later, he's oohing and ahhing again. Wow, God is so great. So the merits professor says, I just told you, what are you oohing and ahhing? He says, yeah, God drowned the entire Egyptian army in 4 feet of water. Isn't that amazing? Ooh and ah. Right? So in your 4 feet of water, he did the trick. That's something to ooh and ah about, right? That magnifies the miracle, right? Today we have a difficult topic to talk about, is may we turn in the Duma Suspects if we know for sure that he's guilty. Now, not rumors, if witnesses testify that he did start the fire. Now, we don't know that, but I'm speaking theoretically, if we know for sure that a Jewish person did the Duma fire, and the only way to know for sure is witnesses testify. Otherwise, in Jewish law, we don't know for sure. But theoretically, may we turn in the Duma suspect if we know for sure that he's guilty by witnesses to prevent future victims from being killed, Jewish and non-Jewish. So let's see what the Torah sources say about this. The Mishnah says in Masechta Avot, "Hafoch ba v'afoch ba de kula ba." You know what that means? Hafoch ba v'afoch ba de kula ba. Keep turning it over and turning it over, because the answers about all problems in life are found where? In the Torah. You just have to know to look. So let's do a little looking today. I made these sources. Let's look at source number 5, please. Source number 5. This is from in the Mishnah in Sanhedrin. Source number 5. You have it, Nikki? Sanhedrin 37. Lefikach nivra adam yechidi. Therefore the human being was created alone. Unlike tigers and elephants and lions, God didn't create one tiger or one elephant, did he? No. He created a whole herd. And he didn't create one monkey, it was a herd of monkeys. Madua valama, why by the human being was it different? God didn't create the whole herd like by elephants, but he created a single human being. It's in English, you can see it's number 5. L'lamdecha, to teach you, shekol hamavit nefesh achas miYisrael, anyone that destroys a single Jewish soul, mal olav hakosuf ki'ilu ibed olem mole, is if he destroyed what? An entire world. And the other side, v'chol hamekayim nefesh achas miYisrael, but if someone saves a single Jewish life, mal olav hakotuv ki'ilu kayim olem mole. One world is what? One human being, one Jew is a whole world. And therefore we celebrate Pesach, even though the Medrash says 80% of the Jews died in Egypt, they didn't make it out. So what are we celebrating Pesach for? 80% didn't make it out. Chamushim. Because even if one Jew makes it out, even if one human being makes it out, it's a reason to celebrate. Right? We don't look for numbers. So saving one life is like saving what? The whole world. The whole world. Now, there are 2 girsas in the Mishnah, Yehuda Lev. I know you like girsas. There are 2. One girsa in the Mishnah has Kolam Kayim Nefesh Achas miYisrael. One who saves a Jewish life is like he what? Saves the entire world. And the other girsa in the Mishnah is without the word Yisrael, Yehuda. There are 2 girsas. How do you say girsas in English? 2 versions in the Mishnah. One version has, that's why it's in parentheses, source number 5. Kol HaMekayim Nefesh Achas miYisrael. If you save a Jewish life, it's like you save the entire world. And if you destroy a Jewish life, it's like you destroy the whole world. But the other gears in the Mishnah, buddy, doesn't have the word Yisrael. Destroying any human being, doesn't matter if he's Jewish or not, is like you destroy the whole world. And saving any human being is like you saved what? The entire world. Lav dafke Yisrael. Because every human being, Mrs. Lapp, has a tzelem Elohim. Adam and Chava were not Jewish. And they had a tzelem Elohim. They weren't Jewish. Right? So, look at source number 6. Unfortunately, this happened throughout Jewish history many times. Source number 6, Yehuda's from the Tosefta. You have that?
Isn't that from Bonanza?
What?
Bonanza.
There's a Bonanza show just like that. It's incredible. I'm telling you, the writer of the Bonanza. Remember Bonanza? Ben Cartwright was Jewish. Lorne Green was Jewish. Adam Purnell Roberts was Jewish. Michael Landon was half Jewish. Half Jewish. Yaakov, I don't know which half.
He's all mother and she's Jewish.
Michael Landon.
Yes, Michael Landon.
Chava, can you come a little closer, please? Chava, source number 6 is actually a Bonanza.
Wow.
Should I tell you?
Yeah.
Cochise and the Apaches. Who? Cochise was Jewish?
Oh yeah. American Indians. They're
Cochise? What?
He was a Cohen.
What?
He wasn't really an Indian.
You remember the Frisco kid? He gets captured by Indians and they start dancing. Ay, 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 ay. And he dances with them. It's a Hasidic shenigin. They're dancing around a totem pole. Ay, 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 ay. Anyway, so Cochise is not... Blading, yeah. But anyway, where was I? Source number 6, Evelyn, is a Bonanza, where Ben and the boys there's a fugitive captain from the U.S. cavalry who's being chased by Cochise and the Indians. And the Ben and the boys happen to be out there in the desert, and they take in this captain who's being hunted by Cochise and the Indians. And they protect him. Cochise and the Indians send an ultimatum. Source number 6, Mickey. Hand over Captain Smith or we'll kill you all. So Ben and the boys are in a dilemma. And looks like they decided on number 6. They don't hand over. His name was Captain Johnson, by the way. Sharon, you remember that episode? It's incredible. There must be Jewish writers. Ben and the boys have a dilemma. Cochise gives them an ultimatum. We don't want to harm you. We want Captain Johnson. If you don't hand them over, we'll kill you all. You and your sons. So they powwow, and they decide, Evelyn, we can't hand over Captain Johnson. We're going to defend him to the last bullet. Where did they come from? Well, number 6, Lorne Green was Jewish. Ben Cartwright. Yeah. Source number 6, non-Jews. Cochise says to a group of people, hand over Captain Johnson and we'll kill him. Or we'll kill all of you. All must be killed rather than surrender what? A Jewish soul. Again, there are 2 girsas, whether it's a Jewish soul and the other girsa has any human being. Because every human being has a tzelem Elohim, not just Jews. Okay?
Isn't this different? It says, there's one of you, it doesn't specify.
No, 1 minute.
The second part is that...
Give us one of you. However, if they specified one person like Captain Johnson, no, Sheva ben Bichri, we'll find out who this dude was and how it relates to the Duma Suspects. So if they single out a person like Sheva ben Bichri, he shall be handed over to them rather than they shall all be killed. So isn't that against what Ben Cartwright and the boys did?
Yeah.
Not so fast. Who was Sheva ben Bichri? So you turn over to side number 7. This is from the book of Samuel 2, chapter 20. May we turn in the Duma Suspects if we know for sure they're guilty. That's only if they're witnesses who saw them do it. Otherwise, they're rumors. To save other victims. Source number 7 is from the book of Samuel 2, chapter 20. What's the background here? There was a Jewish rebel hiding out in a town. And David sends the chief of the IDF on the Yoav, and we'll read number 7. They came and besieged him in the Ebel of Bet Macha, that's the name of the town. And they threw up a mound of earth against the city. Who's they? The IDF. And it stood up against the wall, and all the people who were within with Yoav, he was the chief of the army, battered the wall to throw it down in order to get the rebel. They were willing to kill every Jew in the town. This is Jew against Jew. What we do to each other today, the Chamas Kid stuff. The right and the left, what we do to each other, it's kid stuff, Ruvain. What we did to each other 3,000 years ago. Jew against Jew was killing each other, civil war. So today, the right and the left, it's kid stuff, Sharona. We have to know that we're improving. Today we only fight with words. 3,000 years ago, in the days of David and Avshalom, Jew was killing Jew. So we're improving, buddy. Right? We have to know what we do to each other today is kid stuff compared to those days. Look at verse number 16. Then cried a wise woman from the city. Now Chazal say, who was this wise woman? Serach bat Osher. She was the original Iron Lady before Maggie Thatcher. She survived. She was around. Evelyn, you know who Serach bat Osher was? She came down to Mitzrayim with Grandpa Yaakov. So, and this is how many years after the Exodus? This is about 300 years after the Exodus, and she's still around. Buddy, she must have taken her Geritol. Serach bat Osher. The original Iron Lady before Margaret Thatcher. She's still around in the days of the judges, having come down to Egypt hundreds of years before with Grandpa Jacob. Yaakov gave her a bracha. What?
Where is her name?
Chazal say it.
I don't see it here.
If you see it here, I'd be unemployed. I'm telling you, right? She's the one that sang Old Yosef Chai. So Yaakov said you should live so long. And a tzaddik gives a bracha. It's a bracha. So she's still alive 210 years later. And this is about 300 years after the Exodus. So she must be 500 plus. No spring chicken. And she's the wise woman. Now, Rivka, is it a bracha to see your grown grandchildren growing old and what? And she's still around? Is that a bracha?
Can I ask?
But Yaakov gave her a bracha. So imagine, she's the eternally young woman, and she sees her grandchildren growing old and dying. Rabbi Avraham, what kind of bracha is that?
But can I ask you?
I don't know. She never died. It sounds like a movie, Dorian Gray. Remember that movie? They got everything from us. I don't know. It's you saw that movie? The original Dorian, right? What's your question, Evelyn? What?
Why doesn't anybody name their children Sharach?
Serach. It is named. Don't tell me. The Persians named their kid Serach. It's not Sarah, Serach. Don't mix me up. Serach, Samach Reish Chet, is a popular name in the Persian community. Serach. What? But the Sfardim named their kid Serach bat Osher, the original Iron Lady. Now anyway, she's the wise woman. Mickey, it's in English. I made it for you, especially in English. You don't have a paper? Can you give Mickey a paper? Number 16. Then cried a wise woman from the city. She said, hear ye, right? Yoav ben Tzeruya, he was the chief of the IDF. And she says to him, can I have a word with you? He's ready to destroy a whole city, Yid against Yid. Right against the left, but we only fighting with words, Yehuda. This is the chief of the IDF willing to destroy the whole city of Yidden to get his hands on what? On a Jewish rebel. So what does she say in Pasuk 16? Let me speak to you. In Pasuk 17, when he came near to her, the woman said, are you what? Yoav. Today he would be Gadi Ashkenazi. You know, who's the head of the IDF today? Gabi Eisenkot. Slicha. Okay, then he was called Yoav. Okay, number 17. And he answered, I am. Then she said to him, hear the words of your maidservant. She tried to butter up to him. And he answered, I hear. What do you propose? Number 18, Elisheva. Then she spoke, this wise woman, saying, what is she saying? They will want to speak in old times, saying, let them ask counsel at Abel. The name of her city was Abel. And so they would have ended the matter. Number 19, I am one of those who are peaceful and faithful in Israel. I'm not a rebel. I'm a rebel without a cause. What do you want from me in the whole city? Yid against Yid. Huh? You seek to destroy a city and a mother in Israel. Why does she say mother in Israel? Because she is at least 500 years old and she has many what? Descendants. So you want to kill me and a mother in Israel? Why will you swallow up the inheritance of Hashem? Destroying a city in Israel and all of the Yidden.
Isn't the mother in Israel the city?
The aim be Yisrael.
Israel is a city sometimes.
Well, here she's speaking about herself, I think.
Okay.
Right? Right? Atem avakesh lahamid ir ve'ein b'Yisrael lama tivala nachlat Hashem. Why do you want to swallow up an inheritance of Hashem, destroying a whole city in Israel? He's not speaking to the Abu Mamze here. Who is he speaking to, Chanoch? Yidden. Yid against Yid. We have to realize, Rose, we're much better than they were. With all of the merits and the breaking the silence, no Yid is killing another Yid, Baruch Hashem. Killing me softly with words. But in those days it was much worse, buddy. We have to know that we're improving. Anyway, verse number 20, and Job answered her. What did he say? Chava, you have it? Yes? And Job answered and said, far be it from me that I should swallow up and destroy. No, I don't want to kill you all. Verse 21, the matter is not so, but a man of Mount Ephraim, his name is what? Sheva ben Bichri, has lifted up his hand against the king, against David. Hand him over, turn him in, and I will spare the whole city. You hear? So you allowed to do that?
No.
Not so fast. And what did the woman say to Yoav? Behold, his head shall be thrown to you over the wall. She'll call Isel, and she'll make him a head shorter, hit his buddy, and throw his head over the wall. Verse 22, then the woman went to all the people in her wisdom, and they cut off the head of Sheva ben Bichri and threw it out to Yoav. And he blew the shofar, and they retired from the city, every man to his tent. And Yoav returned to Jerusalem the king. So, she sacrificed one life in order to what?
Save many.
To save many. Did she do right?
Not according to what we learned.
Well,
A rebel against the king, you forfeit your life.
okay, if you're a Jewish criminal, we'll talk about, look at source number 8. You see source number 8? We have learned a group of peoples walking along the way. Non-Jews approached them and said, give us one of you to be killed, or we will kill all of you. Like Ben Cartwright in Cochise. Even if all will be killed, rather than surrender one person. However, Mickey, if they mentioned one person, like Sheva ben Bichri, who's a criminal, he's a Morid b'Malchus, he shall be handed over to them rather than what? Then they should be killed. You hear? You hear that? Okay? So if the person is guilty of a capital crime, then he must be handed over, because then he has a din Yehuda like a rodef. You know what a rodef means?
Yes.
A pursuer. Right? Look how the Rambam codified this in source number 9. You see source number 9? Yehuda, you see source number 9? This actually happened in the Vilna ghetto. The Nazis surrounded the Vilna ghetto and they said, hand over Jacob Gens. They told Jacob Gens, hand over Yitzchak Wittenberg, or we'll kill what? Everybody. So if Goyim say, hand over one person and we'll kill him, Vimlav, Naharik Kulchem, you'll all be killed. Lo Yalenu Yahargu Kulam. The halacha is that what? you can't hand over anybody. Vayimsu lahem nefesh achas miYisrael, you're not permitted to hand over any person. But im yichdu lahem, but if they singled out a person, v'amru tulun anu ploini oy nahargum kulchem, but if they single out a person, and they mention a specific person, they say, hand over Yitzchak Wittenberg, or we'll kill you all. So what's the halacha? It depends if the person they singled out, Ruvain, if it depends if they're what? If that person's a criminal. Im hoye mechuyav mita kisheva ben bichri, if the person that the Nazis or the Apaches single out, if he's a person that's chayiv mita, like Shiva ben Bichri, yitnu oto lahem, then you're permitted to what? To hand them over, right? But if the person that they mention, even though they mention a name, im eino chayiv mita, but if the person is not chayiv mita, and they mention a name, yahargu kulam, then lo yaleinu, they all have to be killed, and you're not permitted to hand over anybody. So the reason why Serach Bas Osher handed over Sheva ben Bichri, because he was a criminal, he was a rodef, and therefore she had a right to what? To kill him in order to save what? The whole city. Normally you can't kill A to save B. But if the persons are, why? Because who says your blood is any redder than his?
What happened to Wittenberg?
1 minute. But if the person is a criminal, then he has a din like a rodef. He has a din like he's already dead. He has a din like he's already dead, and therefore the halacha says you're allowed to hand him over only if the person that they ask for is what? A criminal. Yitzchak Wittenberg was not a criminal, so therefore they were not allowed to hand him over. He went himself. He went himself, and the Nazis killed him, and it bought the ghetto 6 months. Because 6 months later, they liquidated the ghetto anyway, but it bought the Jews in the Vilna ghetto 6 months of life. That's a good question. Was he allowed to give himself up? That's a very good question. That's a very good question. Are you allowed to? Why? He gave himself up to the Nazis, and they killed him. So you're not allowed to hand them over. But can you volunteer?
Did anybody escape in those 6 months?
In those 6 months, I don't know if somebody escaped or not, but by doing that, he bought the ghetto 6 months, right?
He saved them.
So, was he allowed to do what he did? You can't hand them over, but can you go yourself? So there's a case in the Gemara, in Masechta Avodah Zarah, there was a city in Israel where the governor was being governed then by Rome. The city of Israel, the governor of Rome, who was controlling Israel at the time, his daughter was murdered. They found the body in the city. And they said to the people of this city, if you don't hand over the killers, we'll destroy the entire city. So the Talmud says these two people, Pappus and Linus, strange, they had these Greek names, they volunteered, and they gave themselves up, and they were killed, and the whole city was spared. And Abaskol came out and said that these two people were in the highest level of Olam Haba.
Wow.
Were they the killers? Or they
I don't even know if they were the killers or not, but they sacrificed themselves to save the whole city. So how come it's not suicide? Because if they wouldn't have given themselves up, they'd be dead anyway. If Yitzchak Wittenberg wouldn't give himself up, they'd be dead anyway. So by giving himself up, he's not committing suicide. He'd be dead anyway. He's saving what? The other people in the town. So like these two people in the Gemara in Avodah Zarah, they volunteered, and a heavenly voice came out that they have the highest level of Olam Haba.
Is that the same thing that a soldier does? That he fights?
That's right. A soldier gives up his life to save others, right? Right? So anyway, what has it got to do with our case over here, right? So there is a strange chapter in the book of Shoftim. The Sprecher, you don't have it on your sheet, but in the book of Judges, chapter 15, that speaks about Shimshon HaGibor. Shimshon HaGibor acted as a lone, he was fighting a one-man army against the Plishtim, right? Again, so if you look at the book of Shoftim, chapter 15, strange. There it tells us that after Shimshon killed out many Plishtim, he went to hide among the people of Yehuda. And in chapter 15, verse 12 in the book of Shoftim, the people of Yehuda said to Shimshon, "We have come down to tie you up, to hand you over into the hands of the Palestinians." After Shimshon HaGibor made a raid and he killed out many Plishtim, Yehuda, he went to hide among the people of Yehuda. And Judges 15:12 said, the people of Yehuda said to him, "We have come to tie you up and to hand you over to the hands of the Plishtim." Were they halachically correct? Yes. The Malbim says they were halachically correct. Why were they correct? So according to halacha, if a person endangers the life of another through his actions, he's considered a rodef. A rodef must be stopped even at the cost of his life. And the Shulchan Aruch in Yeridea Kuf Nun Zayin says, if a Jewish person endangers the entire community through his actions, he is also considered a rodef, and the community has a responsibility to turn him over to the proper government authorities. So says the Shulchan Aruch Yeridea Kuf Nun Zayin. So the Malbim says that Shimshon had a din like a rodef because by his actions he put the entire Jewish community in danger, and therefore the Yidden of Yehuda had a right to what? Turn him over to the Plishtim. That's pretty amazing, right? So therefore the men of Yehuda said to him that we are going to tie you up and hand you over into the Plishtim because you have a din like a rodef. By your action, you're jeopardizing the entire Jewish community, and therefore we have an obligation to hand you over, and that's what the Shulchan Aruch rules. So if anybody does an action that jeopardizes Jews by burning these people in Duma, Jewish lives are going to, chas v'sholom, I don't want to say, it's going to cost more Jewish blood. The Arabs don't need an excuse to kill us. So if we have proof, and proof is only Edom, hearsay is not proof, okay, I'm saying theoretically, if we saw these people commit this crime, Edom, then we would have an obligation to what? To turn them over, because then these guys have a din like Shimshon and Rodef. But that's only if we have proof. If we don't have any proof, and proof is only what? Witnesses. In Jewish law, hearsay is not proof. Rumors is not proof. These people there's no witnesses that they did this.
And not
right? And ein odem meisem atzmai rasha. A person in Jewish law cannot incriminate himself. So by extracting confession from these boys, it doesn't mean anything. In Jewish law, a person is not permitted to incriminate himself. But I'm speaking, Ruvain, theoretically, if we had witnesses who saw these Yidden burn these Arabs, then and only then would be obligated to turn them in like the Jews turned in Shimshon. In Jewish law, what's the most important mitzvah? Staying alive, staying alive. That's the most important mitzvah. Staying alive, that's the most important mitzvah. How do I know? Source number one. Buddy, you see that? Source number one is the Rambam Hilchos Yesod Torah. Ketzad, Kishyamod Ovid Kachovim, V'yanos Yisrael Lavad Achas Kol Mitzvah Torah. A goy stands up and he forces a yid to be Mechala Shabbos, or to eat pig, or else I'll kill you. Eat pig, be Mechala Shabbos, or else I'll kill you. Yehuda, what's the halacha? Yavor Val Yahoreg. You have to transgress, be Mechala Shabbos, eat on Yom Kippur, and don't get killed. Shenemar b'mitzvot, Ashiyas ois adam v'chai b'hem. What does v'chai b'hem mean? The mitzvahs were given to live by them. V'chai b'hem, v'lo sheyomut b'hem. You shall live by the Torah and not what? die by the Torah. Right? Let's say we met. He wants to be a hero. I never ate on Yom Kippur. I'm not going to start now, goy. And he gets himself killed, and he didn't eat on Yom Kippur. I never ate chazer. I'm not going to start now. I don't care what you say. And he gets killed, and he didn't eat chazer. Is he a hero? What?
He's a fool.
Not only is a fool, v'im met, Ruvain, you have it? Source 1, v'im met, v'lo yavar, if he got killed and he didn't transgress, hareze mitchayev benafsho. He thinks, Evelyn, he's a hero, but he committed suicide. He didn't eat the pig. He didn't eat on Yom Kippur. He's not only a fool, he's considered mitchayev benafsho. How do they translate that in English, Yehuda?
Guilty of his own
How do they say? Guilty of his own life?
Close enough to suicide.
Committed suicide. Right? He committed suicide, yes. What?
During the time of the Maccabees, the Greeks students told us, stop keeping Shabbat, stop eating,
Right.
stop watching, looking at the new moon.
Right.
So, because of that, the Kohanim said...
So they went against halacha.
But eventually...
They went against halacha. You're not allowed to give up your life. Except the chama that every rule has what? An exception.
So when they wanted to rape the women, that was adultery.
Bameh devorim amurim. When do I say that if you're forced to transgress on pain of death, you must transgress? Bishar mitzvot. All the other mitzvot, chutz, avodas kachavim, gili arayot, shvichas damim. Except the 3 cardinal sins. Avos shlosha averot elu, but the 3 cardinal sins of what? Worshipping J.C. Penney, adultery, or murder. If the guy says commit adultery, or worship J.C. Penney, or what? Commit murder. In such a case, teherag. In such a case, you have to forfeit your life and not to transgress, because then life is not worth living. To commit one of the 3 cardinal sins, life would not be worth living. But besides those 3, the halacha says clearly, v'chai bohem. The halacha says clearly that the greatest mitzvah in the Torah is what? Is to live by them and not to die by them. And during those days, the Jews were not doing correctly. You can't be a hero. The Rambam says if you want to be a hero, hareze mitchayev benafsho. You have a din like you're a suicide, and they can't bury that person in the Jewish cemetery. You know that, Abraham? It's amazing. He thinks he's a hero. And Nebuch, he committed suicide. He can't even mourn for him. Yes? So we don't make the rules, Nechama. God makes the rules. It's not my life to throw away.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say.
Oh. Well, how come he doesn't say it here in source number 1? He should say, I don't know. What? So who decides? Who decides whether Chas Hashmar or not? What? Then the Rambam should say it here. Yes?
I heard this story.
Go ahead.
There was a man whose doctor told him not to fast on Yom Kippur, and he fasted and he died. And Rav Kamenetsky told nobody should come to his levaya.
That's right. Rav Yaakov Kamenetsky.
Said what?
A guy was critically ill, and the doctor said he must eat on Yom Kippur. And he said, I never ate on Yom Kippur, I'm not going to start now. He fasted and he died. My Rosh Yeshiva and Rav Yaakov's Rosh Yeshiva paskin that you shouldn't go to this guy's levaya and not to sit shiva for him. And not to bury him in a Jewish cemetery. Because he has a din of what? He has a din of what? A suicide. If the halacha says that you have to eat, then if you don't eat, then what? You have a din of committing suicide. I'll tell you a story that I heard from Rav Soloveitchik. Rav Soloveitchik, otherwise I wouldn't repeat it because I have the tape. I have the tape, okay? He says in the name, Reb Chaim Soloveitchik was his grandfather. Brisk. This is Rav Soloveitchik on a tape. 1954 tape, and he's speaking about this. His grandfather told him this story. There was a cholera epidemic in Brisk. Cholera in those days was deadly. So Erev Yom Kippur, the doctor of the town told Reb Chaim that if you let your congregation fast this Yom Kippur, it'll weaken their resistance and will open them up for the possibility of contracting cholera, which is deadly. So I'm telling you, as a doctor, you should tell your congregation this Yom Kippur not to fast to eat. Even though they don't have cholera, but by fasting their resistance will be low, susceptible to cholera, which is deadly. So I heard this on the tape, otherwise I wouldn't repeat it. Soloveitchik says, that Yom Kippur morning, my Zayde Reb Chaim give a clap on the bima, and he had cake and schnapps, and he made kiddush on Yom Kippur morning. And he ate. Why did he do that? Because if he wouldn't do it in public, nobody would eat. Reuven. It's on the tape. The Zayde Reb Chaim made kiddush Yom Kippur morning, and he ate. And we must eat, otherwise we're susceptible to cholera, which is deadly. So the story's not over yet. So Rav Soloveitchik says, so afterwards some smart Alex from the congregation said, Reb Chaim, what are you a makel on Yom Kippur for, Reb Chaim? What are you a makel on Yom Kippur? Pastish for such a rebbe like you. He says, I'm not a makel, I'm a machmir. Machmir dus and machmir jens. I'm a machmir bekuach nefesh. There's something more important than Yom Kippur. What's that, bekuach nefesh? I'm a machmir and bekuach nefesh. Don't call me a makel. When it comes to bekuach nefesh, you don't go bosaroiv, you're me'ich shash for the miut, even though you don't have cholera. And if you get cholera, who said you'll die? Maybe you'll die. It doesn't matter. When it comes to bekuach nefesh, you don't go bosaroiv. You're machmir to the nines. You hear this? What a story. Repeated by Rav Soloveitchik, that his grandfather Reb Chaim told him, the great Goen and Tzaddik Reb Chaim Brisk, who was always a machmir. So he says, I'm not a makel on Yom Kippur, I'm a machmir in something more important than Yom Kippur. What's that? Bekuach nefesh. Don't call me a makel, I'm a machmir.
So halachically you could say
Go ahead.
that you have to be even sofek bekuach nefesh. You have to.
Me'achuz. The Rambam is clear. Safik bekuach nefesh is doiche kol haTorah kula except the three cardinal sins. Safik, and you don't go basaroiv here. Even if a minuscule chance that you'll get cholera, and even though it may be deadly or not, you're obligated to eat on Yom Kippur. That the great tzaddik Reb Chaim didn't have cholera, but he made a statement to eat, because if he wouldn't eat in public, no one would eat, and many people could die from it. So for him, that Yom Kippur, Evelyn, was a mitzvah to eat.
They have herring?
Huh? They had schmaltz herring, and
What was the kiddush?
it was the kiddush. He made kiddush.
What was the kiddush?
What? On Yom Kippur, he made kiddush. Because for him it's a mitzvah to eat on Yom Kippur. Because Pekuach Nefesh pushes away Yom Kippur. What?
Can you have ice cream and dessert?
You have to eat enough that you should what? Not get cholera. I don't know how much that amount was. What? Cholera.
It's like a very serious flu.
In those days it was deadly, Chava. Today, Baruch Hashem, you have vaccinations. But in 1900, cholera was deadly. Not for everybody, but it doesn't matter. So that's how important it is. It what is the mitzvah of bekuach nefesh, right?
Rabbi?
Yes.
In those days, if you did, God forbid,
Bring back the good old days. What?
if you did commit suicide, you were not buried
In a Jewish cemetery.
Today, they are making all kinds of excuses.
So not today. The Chatam Sofer, who lived in 1837, rose. So he gave the heter, someone commit suicide, to sit shiva for him and to bury a Jewish parent. Because he paskined, Because beautiful, Rivka. He paskin that a person who commits suicide must be out of his mind. So he's not responsible. So the great Chassam Sofer said that the law of the Shulchan Aruch, we're going to what? Bypass it. Because he has a din like a shoite. An insane person is absolved from all mitzvot. Because you have to be out of your mind to commit suicide. So Chassam Sofer, and he had very wide shoulders in 1837, and all the poskim rely on that. So you say that he committed suicide. A, he was crazy, or B, at the last minute he had charata, regretted, so he's a Baal Tshuva. So he paskind, and all the other poskim rely on him, buddy, that a suicide today, you do bury the Jewish cemetery, and you do sit shiva. Okay, so he had very wide shoulders. The Chatam Sofer, Moshe Schreiber.
But why?
You know the Schreiber family? It's all comes from. So
Why is he allowed to change Shulchan Aruch?
He didn't change. It's different. No, he says that in the days of the Shulchan Aruch they weren't insane.
Oh, come on.
Today, to commit suicide, you have to be insane.
I think you did.
You remember Crazy Eddie? His prices are insane.
I don't know, because that's mostly New York. But in those days,
Some say he takes wide shoulders, Ruvain, and therefore today, from his time on, suicide victims are given a Jewish shiva and they are buried in the Jewish cemetery. Because you must be out of your mind. What?
you were there
They
too.
didn't know it
Anyone.
then.
They didn't know he was.
I'm not aware.
They weren't aware then, right? They didn't know what mental illness was, right?
Including stress and guilt.
What?
Including bad law cases, too.
What? But anyway,
So now you know, I could have seen that.
what?
Said, but off haven't places.
I don't hear you. What?
But off haven't places.
Right to shoulder, right to places, to paskin like that, to rehabilitate these people where you can sit shiva for them, and you do bury them in a Jewish cemetery, because the Shulchan Aruch says you can't sit shiva for them, because they killed themselves. So he's saying they must have been out of their minds. Or someone that's a shaita is potter from all the mitzvahs of the Torah, right? Yes?
Is a murderer allowed to be buried in the Jewish cemetery?
Now, you look at Masechta Sanhedrin, Rivka, the Jewish court executed criminals. There were two separate cemeteries, Chava, for the victims that were stoned and the victims that were strangled.
Oh, really?
Two separate, in ancient Israel, you look in Tractate Sanhedrin, 59, there the execution of the court, stoning was, dead is dead, but stoning is more gruesome than strangulation. So a stoning victim was not buried in the same cemetery with what? Strangulations. So a person executed by the court was not buried in a regular cemetery. He was buried on the separate cemetery for criminals, and so much so that a stoning victim was not even buried with a strangulation victim. Dead is dead, but there's different, strangulation is, you don't suffer as much as being stoned, right?
Sit shiva for a murderer?
So for an executed victim of the court, you did not sit shiva. If the court executed somebody, you didn't sit shiva, and you didn't bury him in a regular cemetery. So the Gemara says after 12 months, when the body has decomposed, after 12 months, the relatives are permitted to take the skeleton and rebury him in the family plot. But for the first 12 months, the body must remain on Boot Hill, the cemetery exclusively for what? For execution victims. Only after 12 months, when the body's decomposed, can the relatives collect the bones and rebury it in the family plot. So the Talmud explains why. Because it ain't over till it's over. The crime is so heinous that he committed blasphemy, adultery, chilul Shabbat, that the kapara is not complete with death. The body has to suffer to be buried not in the family plot. That's part of the kapara. And after 12 months, when the body's decomposed, the kapara is complete, and then the body can be reburied in the family plot. So it ain't over with death. Some crimes are so, but after you're dead, you can't do tshuva.
No, right
after you're dead.
Right before he's hung, or right before
You're right, he's confessed.
And
He does confess, and he says, may my death be my kapara. So tshuva is not a free lunch, buddy. Tshuva is not a free lunch. He says, may my death be my kapara. That's part of the tshuva. It's not a free lunch.
No, that's better.
Right?
That makes sense.
Yeah.
But once he says that he gets death, he should be able to be buried because he did.
No, it's still not, because tshuva is not a free lunch.
It's not complete.
The crime was so heinous that the death, the confession, and being buried on Boot Hill, that's all part of the tshuva process. It ain't over till it's over. Yes, Ruvain?
I know someone who told his son that he wants the son to say Kaddish for 12 months
Go ahead.
because he thinks he doesn't merit.
11
Believes
months.
this guy really merits, just the 11 months. But he thinks
Reuven is raising a very good issue. There's a minhag to stop saying Kaddish for a parent after 11 months. Because the Talmud tells us that the maximum time spent in Gehenna is for a Jew is 12 months. So if you're going to say Kaddish for a parent for 12 months, what are you implying? That he's a Russia, he has to what?
Needs the full 12.
Needs the 12 months. So the minhag is to stop saying Kaddish after 11 months, not to imply that your parent was a Russia. Let's say the parent left a tzavah. A tzavah, how do you say that in English? A tzavah. A will, or a living will, or an oral will. I want you to say Kaddish for me for 12 months. It happens more than you think, Chanoch.
Okay.
Then, because the parent is nervous. The parent is nervous. Then the halacha is the son, mitzvah l'kayim divra hamet.
Which means?
There's a mitzvah to listen to a deceased parent. So then you do say Kaddish, Chanoch, for 12 months.
You don't listen.
Because that's what your parent wanted.
You don't listen to him for everything. He tells you to burn his body.
No, if you tell him to burn his body, you can't listen because that's against halacha. But the saying Kaddish for 12 months is not against halacha. It's not against halacha. If the father says, don't say Kaddish for me, you're not allowed to listen.
Right.
Then you're not allowed to listen. But if the father says, say for 12 months, then you have to listen because that's not against halacha. To burn the body or not to say Kaddish is against halacha. And your parent can't tell you to go against halacha. But to say Kaddish for 12 months is not against halacha, and therefore you should listen. You should listen, yes?
Okay, Rabbi, you said before about the strangling and the stoning.
Right.
In cemeteries.
They'll stone you when you're riding in your car.
Right.
What?
About other ways of death, like that thing with a burning.
So the Talmud says Skila and Sreifa had their cemetery, and Hereg v'Chenek had their own cemetery.
What's that?
Skila and Sreifa, stoning and burning victims. They had one Boot Hill Besdin cemetery, and Hereg v'Chenek, beheading and strangulation, had a separate cemetery, Besdin. So even a stoning victim or a burning victim could not be buried with what? With a strangled victim.
Or beheaded.
Or beheading victim. Just amazing how you don't, even in death, you don't want a Russia AAA be buried to a Russia single A. They're AAA Russias and they're AA Russias. And they can't even be buried in the same Boot Hill cemetery. In Jewish law, one of the execution was Hereg. A murderer in Jewish law got beheaded before ISIS and ice cream. A murderer was beheaded in Jewish law.
So there's lots of methods of death.
Four.
Places you can be buried at. I would take death by chocolate.
By chocolate. Right? What a way to go, yes?
We learned somewhere,
Right?
you can say Kaddish forever for a parent.
According to Kabbalah, Rivka, now the halach is that you should say for 11 or 12 months. Al pi Kabbalah, the Kavachayim, the Kabbalistic says that it's helpful even for 43 years later. Every time you say Kaddish for a deceased parent, even 50 years later, you're moving up that soul. Moving on up. The halacha says 11, 12 months, Evelyn, but a pi Kabbalah, the Kavachayim, the Kabbalistic Sefer says that even many years later, anytime you say Kaddish for a deceased parent, you are giving that neshama what? Hana. And, you know, and Olam Haba is Ein Sof. What does Ein Sof mean? It's endless. Just like God is endless. What is Olam Haba? Olam Haba is God's mind. We continue to live on in God's mind. And God is endless, so Olam Haba is endless. So anytime you say Kaddish, even 40 years after a parent dies, according to Kabbalah, even though it's not required, you are elevating the neshama. So I continue to say for my father from 1995. I'm doing Kibbutz from 1995 after he passed on. Right? Moving on up. It's endless.
Wait, Rabbi, you
My endless love.
only do it on his yortzeit.
No, all the time. Now, on the yacht side, don't mix me up. On the yacht side, even 60 years later, there's a din to say Kaddish on the yacht side, even 69 years later. But al pi Kabbalah, to say Kaddish every day for a deceased parent, not just for the yacht side, even though it's not required, Kabbalistically, it benefits the neshama.
That's good. Rabbi Soloveitchik said Kaddish for 5
For 5 years after she died.
Yes.
Okay?
He decided 5 years.
And then he stopped. I don't know.
I heard that's what one of his students reported.
5 years. And maybe I should speak about Kaddish. How Kaddish is therapy for the living. Maybe I should speak about that one day.
Yeah.
Yes. How does Kaddish work? Reuben, it's not hocus pocus. So Bli Neda will talk about that, how Kaddish works, yes?
You know, after Aleinu, if there's nobody who's actually got a healed,
Right.
somebody whose parents are no longer alive
Should say Kaddish.
Now, in that case,
Right.
who's saying Kaddish, can he have in mind one of his parents when he says?
Of course, the Ramah says clearly, if there's no one to say Kaddish, you can have in mind many people. Because Ner Echad, Ner Meya, Ner Hashem Nishmat Adam. Buddy, can you say Kaddish for more than one person at a time? Why? When you light a candle for one, or light a candle for 100, right? Ner Hashem Nishmat Adam. The neshama gets hana. One candle, you have 100 people in a room or one person in a room. You light one candle, everybody in the room gets hana. So that's the same thing with Kaddish. You can say for more than one person.
And there's
Right?
a lot of people that have nobody to say for them. So by saying it,
That's right. You're doing a chesed shel emet.
right, so.
You're doing a chesed shel emet, right? Thank you very much. Toda rabah.